In this video, we're going to take a look at logical values and logical expressions in Excel 2016, and actually it's worked this way in every version of Excel. So logical values are used to help make a decision, and logical values are true and false. Those are the only two possible logical values that are available. And usually we compare two values in Excel. We're going to compare the 10 and the 20 here. And we're going to ask questions about whether they are equal, whether A1 is greater than B1, whether it's less than, greater than or equal, less than or equal to, or not equal. So let's go here to column B, and we will put formulas in that answer the question in column A. Well, if I just put A1 equals B1 and hit enter, that's exactly what I get. And the reason for that is obvious. This is a formula. It's supposed to do some computation for me, and therefore it needs to start with an equal sign. So let's go up here and put an equal sign in front. And that looks funny. Equals A1 equals B1. But if you remember the fact that that first equal sign is just to tell Excel that this is a formula, then the formula is A1 equals B1. And we can go ahead and hit enter now. And it says no, 10 is not equal to 20. Okay. Down here, I want to know equals A1 greater than B1, and 10 is not greater than 20, so I should get false for that as well. Here I want to know if A1 is less than B1 and 10 is less than 20, so I should get true for that. And here I want to know if A1 is greater than or equal to B1. And we have to improvise here because the greater than or equal and less than or equal and not equal symbols that you learned in algebra are not on a computer keyboard. So the way we do greater than or equal to is with two separate keystrokes, a greater than followed by an equal sign. Let's go ahead and do that, and it should tell me false. 10 is not greater than or equal to 20. Let's try A1 less than or equal to, and I'm going to do something wrong here. I'm going to put a space in there between the less than and the equal to, and then put B1 and hit enter. And when I do, I get an error. And Excel is trying to fix this for me, and it's not fixing it correctly. It's taking the equal sign out. So I'm going to say no, and click on OK. This Excel help here when there's a problem with a formula is usually not very helpful to me. So I rarely click on help, and I'm just going to click on OK. And I'm going to go back here. I'm going to hit backspace and delete that space in there. And that's all you need to do to fix it. But do not put spaces in the middle of any one of these three symbols here. Otherwise, Excel doesn't know what you're trying to do. So 10 is less than or equal to 20, so I should get true. And then our not equal is a less than followed by a greater than sign. So let's do equals A1 is less than greater than B1. And hit enter, and we should get true for that because 10 is not equal to 20. Okay, a couple of things about column B here. First of all, when you're doing these symbols down here, the greater than or equal, less than or equal, and not equal, the order does matter. I cannot say put the equal sign first in these two, and I can't have the arrows pointing at each other in this one down here. So order makes a difference if you turn it around, and it's pretty easy because on these two at least, you write it pretty much the way it's normally said. People usually say greater than or equal to, not equal to or greater than, and same thing with less than or equal to. Now, something else you may have noticed is that all of my results here are centered. Now, in Excel, numbers are automatically right aligned in a cell, so the 10 and the 20 get pushed over to the right unless I change the alignment by doing something up here in the alignment group. Text, which is what we have here, is normally left aligned, and you see that I went here and I right aligned it, but by default text is left aligned. I just wanted to get a little bit closer to the column B. So text is left aligned, numbers are right aligned, but look what happened to our logical values. Here our logical values got centered. And that is Excel's way of telling you that these are values. It's not the word false, it's not the word true. I know it looks like it is, but internally it's not represented as two words, true and false. And let me show you here what happens if you try to type in just true or false. I'm going to type in true in lowercase letters and hit enter, and immediately two things happen. It gets centered and it gets changed to uppercase letters. So these logical values will always be centered unless you change the alignment, and they will also always be in uppercase letters. Now, what if you want to actually have the word true or the word false there? Well, obviously, if you just type it in like I did up here, it becomes the logical value true, not the word true. So if you want to make something the word true or the word false, which is like ordinary text, you need to start with an apostrophe. So I'm going to type in true with a capital T, but the other ones are going to be lowercase letters, and hit enter. And there's two ways that you know that this is not a logical value, but it's the word or the text true. It is left align, and it's not all in caps. If it were a logical value, then it would be centered and it would be all in caps. And you can do the same thing for false, and it doesn't care about capitalization here. And when you look up here, the apostrophe shows up on the formula bar, but it does not show up down here. So if you ever need the word true or the word false when you're in a spreadsheet, and you don't want them to be interpreted as logical values, but you want them to be interpreted as words, then put apostrophes or put an apostrophe in front. And also, when you are using logical values, if you ever want to put a logical value in a cell yourself, do not put quotation marks around it. Don't do this. Whoops. Let's try that. Don't put quotation marks around it. It's not the same thing. It looks like this, but it's not the same thing. So I know this is a little tricky, but these are actually stored as values internally in Excel. They're not stored as the words true and false. Excel just displays true and false to us because that's what makes sense to us. Now, logical values are normally determined by comparing two things, but there are also some functions that return logical values, and we will be looking at some of those in some future videos. The reason we're talking about logical values right now is because logical values are used to make the if function work, and the if function is what we're going to take a look at in our next video.